Right, welcome to another exciting episode of Q and Author. I'm Scott, and I'm joined by Cara and Zone.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for joining me. Author of Cinders Burn at Midnight, which sounds
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Does it?
All right, would you like to go first? Would you like me to go first? What would you like to do?
I don't care. I actually, which probably doesn't surprise you, I have more than 5 questions because I was like, I'll just see where the conversation goes, and I'll
Nice.
go in whatever direction. So I'm pretty flexible.
All right. I will shoot from the hip then. Cinders Burn at Midnight is the first part of a fantasy series, and this is obviously book one. All right. So, what is it about
It
the
is.
fantasy genre that draws you in?
Oh wow, that's a big question and really really good. I I did a lot of, I was pretty much by myself, like for my whole childhood and stuff, but I was always, so there was one aspect where I always wanted to be Indiana Jones, but I like wanted to be Indiana Jones with like magic. And it was just always a part of me. And I don't know necessarily, because we're all energy, right? Like, so
Yeah.
why can't the energy sort of do funky things if you know how to do it right? That's what the X-Men are about.
Yeah.
But so it's just something that I've always been drawn to. And it was even in like when I was playing Indiana Jones with myself, there was always a magical element. So it was kind of like, I don't know, but the thing is just ingrained in me.
Nice.
Honestly.
Awesome.
Thank you. Now it's my
Fantasy
turn.
escape. Yeah, please.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, honestly, it's just really neat all of the stuff that you can do too. And even if there are limitations. But so I was researching because that's what we do. And I love the title of your novel. I love it. I have it written down. I'm so sorry. It's
That's
so
okay.
funny. It's hilarious. So I was wondering, sort of along the same lines. That's pretty cool. Like, how did your humor, or what media inspired your humor to come up with this novel, this title, all of those things? Because it's very clear, just right in the title, that even if it's going to be a little darker, there's going to be some pretty good humor in it also.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. There's a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
I think I've always. It's weird because I always wanted to like write horror and make horror movies and scare people and stuff, but I just can't help but like throw in jokes. Like I just I can't help it. And
Yeah.
as soon as you had like elderly supervillains, it was like, well, obviously, they're gonna have like a colostomy bag, and something's gonna go awry, and it's gonna be disgusting, and like it's just gonna be kind of darkly funny. So yeah, I as much as I try to avoid it, I can't seem to help it. So maybe it's just a problem that I've got, or how I deal with all of like how I deal with like life and trauma is by trying to laugh about it. So yeah, I just can't escape it.
Hilarious. I think it's fantastic. So I don't even know if I think it's really intelligent when you can
Thank
put
you.
humor and stuff like that. So yeah, we're welcome.
So the book features a college setting.
Yes.
What do you think it is that why does fantasy and the schooling system seem to go really really well together?
Well, mine is at a dark academia. My college is like based in the real world.
Okay.
But I do think that it's people are calling it dark academia, but it's not a magical college. It's just a regular college. So that's
Right,
where
right,
there's a
right.
little bit of overlap. But I think that first off, when I first got the idea, I hadn't gone to a 4-year school. I was 28 years old. And that's what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to go to school for writing. And there were reasons why I didn't do it. And so that was a really big part of why I think that it first came out like the way that it did, because it was always at a college setting. It was always at a real world college setting, but it was always there. So I think that that was sort of my desires coming out in creativity. But also, I think that when you're in your 20s and like late 18s and stuff, that was a word. I just did that. uh, but I think that it's such a huge opportunity when you're learning, a skill, you're also learning about yourself. So I think in any kind of studious environment, there's always that option to learn how much you can be. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Like,
Yeah,
instead
it's
of
I guess the ultimate coming of age setting, right? Like,
but yeah, I absolutely agree about that. That's the coming of age. I didn't used to like the phrase coming of age, because it was always like, oh well, somebody's losing their virginity, which
yeah.
but I got told that wasn't right, so I was like, okay, I'll just believe that.
You can grow in other ways.
Yeah, well, you can, right? And honestly, sex doesn't really make you a new person. It's just a new experience you've had. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so what made you want to use the villains as the protagonists? Because I love that flip of things, and a lot of times I think that if you go back and you watch movies from the 80s and 90s, that those villains are pretty justified in being angry about what they're angry about. So I like the villains
Yeah,
being the
they're
protagonists.
so much more fun, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
good
Yeah.
villains. Good villains
Mm-hmm.
are more fun. And I think particularly in like the superhero kind of, especially movies, because we're like, I started this in like 2019, so we were like, Marvel was everywhere. It was just like, I think Endgame had just come out, and but like the villain problem was always like, in all of these movies, the villain's like, I'm going to destroy the world. And it's like, why do you want to do that? Like, what? Isn't there something much more? And that's why the really interesting villains are the ones that kind of have ulterior motives, or just people who, the ends justify the means. And I think villains are just far more interesting. A complex villain is far more interesting than a hero who is just like, I'm good to be good. So I think just having a group of these people together who all tried to achieve vastly different things for vastly different reasons, but have all become like friends in their old age sitting around the duck pond is a really fun idea. And like, it's really exciting to kind of explore that with like, of them all together. You also work as a publishing consultant and a writing coach. So how does that feel, I guess, compared to writing your own work?
One of the things that I've always wanted to do just in life is help people be comfortable with themselves, and let them know that they can do things. Like, I came from a place I have very low self-esteem. I came from a place where I have, complex PTSD, and I had to work through all of that stuff. And I know what it's like to not believe in yourself. So I really, it's one of my goals to help people start to believe in themselves, or I'll believe in you enough until you can start believing in yourself and you get a handle. I still don't think I know what the hell I'm talking about, when it's about my stuff, like, I'm terrified. Yeah. But I want to help people. I want to help people not give up, and I also want to help them reach their goal their way. Like, your way isn't going to be my way. Our brains are completely different. Maybe it will be, but our brains are completely different. So I'm not going to ever peddle like, do it my way and you'll do it right. It's going to be, let's figure out what your way is, and then you can get really comfortable and be genuine. So I have like a huge love of that for helping people. And I was a ghostwriter in the indie publishing sphere for like since 2019, and I went through Upwork. Well, I went through a couple of different places, and all of the places, the people had these disgustingly unrealistic expectations about how indie publishing and writing is going to go. And I love giving them the plate of reality and then seeing them still succeed. So, yeah. Because there were so many people that were like, well, I wrote a book and I put it on Amazon and it's not doing well, so I'm just going to give up. And yeah, if they would have kept going, it wouldn't be that way. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a wake up call. I think when you're just trying to get in any creative field, really, like, and there's always going to be a degree of luck. Like,
I had my ass handed to me between 2021 and 2023, and like the last kick was in like July of 2024, and I was kind of like, oh, I'm not impervious to rejection anymore, but it's a hell of a lot easier. My ego is crushed down to a powder,
Yeah.
so I'm ready for publishing.
Well, yeah, I remember when I got my first rejection letter, I was like, I think I was okay because I'd been through like the film stuff already, like my younger days, like getting rejected for grants and stuff like that, trying to get movies made. So when I got my first published rejection letter, I was just like, oh, cool. I don't know why I was so excited about it.
It was like
it's
I just
something
wanted...
that everyone has to do. I got it.
Right. And then you have so much more rejection to come. It's really hard to imagine, but it's okay. I just get to that point where I'm like, it's all right. It's going to be. I've had more people tell me that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to fail than I will ever have in my entire life. People supporting me, even though I have amazing supportive people in my life, my friends, I have a great, Instagram community. I have my family, like I have all of that support now. But I still like, there will never be as many people that's supporting me.
Yep.
As people told me I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
But I love proving people wrong.
Me too. It's exciting, right?
Yeah. It is. So you were talking about filming, and I was doing some research, and I don't know if it actually adds up, but I was really curious who Samuel Crawford is, and is it the American general, or is this something completely different? Because I saw it was a Western that you did that.
No, so Samuel is a totally fictional character. My mother's family name is Crawford, so I just took that because I thought it was a good name.
It is.
It's an Australian Western about so we have the Bushrangers, which are basically outlaws for Australia. And he was a rarely retired bushranger who made a deal with the government to murder his friends and brothers to be able to get out of the game, kind of thing. And essentially gets sort of pulled into having to hunt down a religious cult in the Australian outback. Was a really kind of twisted Western, and it won a screenwriting award in America, which was cool. But then I just could not get the damn thing made here in Australia.
I thought, that's why I found it. I went down the internet rabbit hole, and I was like, oh, he won. Oh, it's a Western. Oh, who's this random USA general? I didn't think it was the same one, but I was just like, now I have to ask. So. Congratulations on your award too.
Thank you. That was like forever ago now. That was like I think one of my first real oh shit, I can do this moments. And then it never got made. And I was like, I've got this great script there. That's going to be a novel one day when I want to sit down and pad it out. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it'll be great.
Did you ever have that one book that when you read it you thought, "Yep, I'm going to be a writer"?
I was a really dark kid. Just gonna preface that. Nice. I was a really dark kid. So my love of writing and reading became I don't know if it was natural or not. I didn't have a normal bringing up where people read to me every night, and I didn't have that, but I loved to read. And my elementary school had this book. It was called In a Dark, Dark Room, and it's a spoiler just in case. This was the early 80s. So if you haven't read this yet, sorry. The very first story. Yeah. The very first story is about this creepy man who's following these kids home, but he has a really big smile and he's got a huge mouth. And then these kids just keep seeing all these creepy men with these huge mouths. So I love that. But there's the other one that was really, really great for me, and it's still a favorite of mine, and I read it to my kids, and turns out they're horrified, was the Green Ribbon. And it was about this girl who always had a green ribbon around her neck, and her friend who turned into her boyfriend, who turned into her husband, was always like, what is this green ribbon? And she was always like, I'll tell you, it's not time yet. So they get married, and he's like, can you tell me now? So she's on her deathbed, and she's like, you can take the ribbon off. And she does, and her head falls off. So
I've read that one.
Yes. And that's really where I was just like, fixated on words, and my very first thing that I wrote was about Bambi dying. So I had watched the Disney version and then decided that he should probably get shot too. I was in second grade, so always been in the dark.
No, yeah,
But
that's that. Yeah, well, I think Bambi is like every kid's introduction to grief, right? Bambi, or Land Before Time, or Bambi, or
yeah, I love The Land Before Time. I saw that in the movie theater.
nice, nice. I
Yeah.
had it on VHS. It's like really, I remember like really blue clamshell cover. That was
I have so speaking of that kind of cover, I have Flash Gordon. So that's my Flex
ah
on VHS. I have the
nice.
original 70s with Queen and everything like that. It's in
Yep,
the red.
nice.
So I always
Yeah,
like to flex that because
as far as the we were talking about cassettes, my favorite my flex is I've got an original Halloween on Betamax.
ooh, oh, Betamax.
Yeah, no Betamax player, but I've got a Betamax tape.
I don't even like I can still find VHS like DVD things here, but I
Yeah,
don't know that I could find any Betamax anywhere. That is a flex though.
yeah. Halloween on. Never been able to watch it, but you know, I have
You still
it.
have it.
Yeah, I've got the tapes.
Someday, somebody.
Yeah. One day I'll find one at a Goodwill.
But so I was looking at your cover, and your cover is also hilarious. It has that humor and stuff in there. But I really was curious, like who's your favorite villain in your novel?
Oh, in my novel? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Probably Doc Shock. I mean, he kind of. So I wrote a superhero movie script back like when I was just writing scripts. Like it was like, oh, I'll totally do that, and then I wrote like a 100-page script, and it was rereading it like recently. I'm like, oh, this is dreadful, but that kind of the that character was kind of there. I mean, he wasn't a villain; it was the hero, and but the idea of like his power set was this character. So he was the one thing that carried over from that this terrible superhero screenplay that I wrote like when I was a teenager, and so I love the character and the kind and yeah, like he is inherently kind of good as you discover. He's just
Yeah.
like misunderstood.
And that's how most villains are, right? Like if
Yeah,
you go
yeah,
back and you look at all of the things, some people just want to just be asleep and you keep waking them up or anything
yeah.
like that. But so my when you're sitting there saying that your screenplay or what you were writing in originally was awful, it's not. It was just you had to go through that to
Yeah. You're right.
get to
You're right.
feel.
Like
So
teenage me with my teenage like I had a scene in it and I was rereading it and this was just like because I very very slowly putting together the pieces for what is Criminal Cove 2. So I was like, I'll revisit that script and just see if there's any other nuggets in there that I've missed. And I remember reading it and there's like a scene in it where the person wakes up from a coma and all of his friends are around the bed and I'm like, oh fuck, like it's so terrible.
but it's like a rough draft. You have to get it out. You
Yeah,
have to like
yeah.
toss the bones on the ground and then you put the skeleton together. So
Yeah,
something's in there.
I was like a CW superhero. Anyway, that's fine.
No, that's where we all come from. You know what I really loved, and I don't want to go off track here because I do and can and just stop me. But I
That's fine.
like the fact when you were talking because I watched the TD, I watched Travis's with
Yeah,
you, and you were talking about how this was sort of your response to all the Marvel and DC, movies that are out and stuff. And in my opinion, it's more Marvel. But my
yeah,
husband really likes them. And I
yeah.
sat through like three and I was like, my life is not changed at all from watching this. So I'm just not going to watch anymore. And
Yeah,
I love superheroes. I loved X-Men growing up, like Wonder Woman, but DC Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot was amazing.
yeah. It was a great
Um,
film.
it was. And I grew up on Superman with Christopher Reeves and Richard Pryor. So,
Yeah,
I loved it, but
Superman
it was
3, so good.
yeah, it was. But it was just sort of like, all right, I'm over it
Yeah,
with all the
I can act embittered,
here.
but I literally went and saw the new Captain America yesterday with my 4-year-old. Like we went because he's as superhero obsessed as I am. So I
Yeah,
as much as I like am like they're all the same. I still go see them, and you know what I mean. Like I do. I love that stuff still, and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Marvel's dead, it's over," and it's sort of like we're still getting superhero movies. Like when I
yeah.
was a kid, we had to wait for like X-Men and Spider-Man to come along for it to actually be done well. Because I certainly wasn't allowed to watch Blade. Like,
Loved
I mean,
Blade.
they're amazing
It's
stuff, right?
so
Like
good.
Batman
Yeah.
and Superman are amazing, but like to go see in a theater when I was like when I was growing up, like '90s, I mean, they were really great cartoons, like the Spider-Man cartoon, the X-Men cartoon. My God, like amazing.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
didn't have the movies, and now we've got them,
Yeah.
and suddenly everyone's like, "Oh, they suck now." It's like just be grateful.
I just want to say also the Christopher Reeves, Supermans are pretty freaking campy. I mean,
Oh
I think
yeah,
that I think that good is very relative in certain circles.
I will stand by the first film. Like I think it's
Right.
a really magical and really beautiful film. And then the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 is also very very impressive. Like if you put them together as one kind of experience. But you're right. Like they're still like totally silly.
Yeah. And they are. And the ones now are just really about people throwing big things around and
Yeah.
punching and action. So, it is what it's still making millions of dollars. Disney wouldn't have just
Yep.
bought it if it's dead. They're going to keep it alive and they're going to keep resuscitating it. So.
Yes. Yes. That will mouth to mouth will be continuing. All right. I think I've got one left.
Go ahead.
We talked about this briefly. The spicy literature, as the kids call it. Which so is would you consider, I guess, Cinders Burn at Midnight to be spicy? And if so, what does it take to write a good sex scene?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think I said that on our when you were messaging me about it too, because so I did contemporary romance writing for several clients, and so I researched contemporary romance for about 2 years. And I'm not a contemporary romance reader, and I'm very happy not to read contemporary romance again. But I learned a lot, and it was great because I can do the open door sex scenes, and it's there's no trick. And honestly, you kind of have to get it all out and
Yep.
then re-edit it. My DE was like, Kara, this is taking too long, and I'm like, I know, but that's what happened. And she's like, cut it out. She's like, just cut it down. And I did. And there's a lot of moving parts, right? Like,
Yeah.
so there's that aspect. And I thought that I knew the spicy levels of books because I researched them for 2 years. But apparently I know nothing because
Right.
my book, for different readers, it's different spice levels. Most of the reviews are all like, oh, it's a 1 spice. And I'm like, Jesus, I thought it was like a 4. And I guess that, so I have a friend who is a contemporary romance reader, and I will read her book because she's fantastic and everything. I just got burnt out on it because I was doing it so much.
Yeah.
And I do like fantasy way more, and sci-fi, but now my brain is going crazy. And she like put a chart out, and she like put it in our social media DM, and I started reading it, and I guess the level 4, it has to have 2 kinks in it, and I was like, so mine is definitely not that.
Right.
I don't even know what the kinks would be. Like sometimes somebody will be like, oh, it's a 3, and I'm like, but not according to this this scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's so everybody has a different meaning of spice. It's the best way I could describe. So my copy editor says that I do too many choppy sentences, like she has to go and fix some sentences, and it's usually in those action scenes, and technically
Yeah.
Open Door Spice is kind of an action, right?
Yeah.
So there's just got to be a good balance of like tension and then banter. And again, that's super weird. But one of my friends who was she's also a ghostwriter for contemporary romance. She's like, I found that you have to do like 20% actual physical like writing, and when I say physical, like physicality, like the characters
the action
doing something, using specific words, you know, and then most of it's talk because it's more intimate. Like the more you boil it down, the more it's about two people connecting than it is actually about the physical kind of sex. So
yep. Nice.
Sorry, I talked.
No, it's fine. I tried. There is a sex scene in Criminal Code, but like my silliness got the better of me with like two superheroes having sex.
I never intended to have sex scenes in this stuff because technically my book is not a romantasy. It's again, people are going to name it what they name it. Sorry. My novellas are. I'm not intending them to be, but my very first novella, it's like a freebie. You give a teaser to people they get introduced to the world. You get their email addresses, all of that stuff. Well, it's two men. And I'm not a homosexual male, and I don't know how to do a sex scene for homosexual males. I've read the books, but I don't physically know, So I purposefully left that out because I was like, I don't have I didn't have a sensitivity reader. I was not like that. But all of my characters, they love to freaking have sex. They all do. Like not together, like it's just a way to get to know characters, and so it's just always going to be in my books now. And it wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to write a romantasy. It was just like...
It just became...
There it is. It did. So, but yeah, thank you for... I had a couple more, and I am curious about your movies, but I really want to know if your supervillains in your story have the same kind of complaints like stereotypical elderly characters usually do, like my hip hurts and all that stuff, or is it like supervillainy kind of complaints?
They walk the line. Some of them are obviously just aging and dealing with the complaints of aging, but I tried to like jazz it up a little bit. So like there's a character made of metal who is literally rusting. And like is trying to like get obtain some WD-40 to kind of lubricate the hips a bit, and there are characters who are getting dementia and forgetting that they have powers and what they can do, and there are also characters. Yes, and then there are characters who are like have reached the point of life where it's like, oh, did I waste everything? So like there's a sort of I guess a Captain America kind of archetype character on the side of the heroes who went through life being completely and utterly noble, and now in old age has like become a completely depraved like sex maniac and is like drinking himself into oblivion to enjoy all the things that he missed out on because he was so busy being a good guy.
That's great, though. That's great. It's neat to see the juxtaposition, right? Like, because if you have been good for so long, why?
Yeah, when no one needs you anymore. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, really... what do I do? So he's sampling all of that life has to offer that he missed out on.
Exactly, because why not? Because just do it once, right? At least. And then at least you could know you didn't like it.
Exactly. So there's a lot of like weird fun stuff in there. So the aging is definitely the center of the story.
That's interesting. I did buy your book. I'm waiting for it to come.
Yes, I picked up your book too, and I'm waiting for it to arrive.
Mine is coming from Barnes and Noble, so I don't know if it'll take as long for you, but I'm also wide, so I don't know that it'll take as long to get to you or not.
I think they said Monday. I think Amazon said Monday.
Yeah, I got
which is like next week. That's good.
That is good. I don't. Mine says 2 to 5 days, so I think that
Arriving Monday. I went silly
Yay.
and bought a bunch of books. I was like,
I
I was like,
appreciate it. Thank
I've
you.
never read Psycho by Robert Bloch, so I bought a whole bunch of.
Oh, I bet that's a good book.
I can't wait to
I've
find
never
out.
read
So yeah,
that
I
either.
bought like a bunch. I was just like, I've never read it, and I thought, you know what, bugger it, I'm going to buy that as well. So I bought a bunch of books.
Yeah. Thank you. I know, I appreciate it. Yeah, tell me how you like Psycho.
I'll let you know.
I have a woman who, somebody who wanted to read my novel, and she's in the EU, and they're having problems right now with specific things, and I don't know anything. Like, I know about world, what's going on in the world and the news and all of that stuff. But she DM'd me, and she's like, "I can't get your book for 6 months," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I'm not just in Amazon, right? Like I went wide. So that Ingram Spark is international. Like they shouldn't. And she's like, I don't know. She's trying to get it from Amazon, and she's like, they said 6 months, and I was like, oh crap.
Wow, that's a wait.
Yeah, but she said it's for all books. It's not just for my books. So
Oh, wow.
I don't know what's going on over there. So, but yeah.
So in the EU,
there's
patience is your friend.
You get to learn more because we don't have enough stuff to teach us patience.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much, Cara, for joining me. I really, really do appreciate it. Taking part in Q and Author. Where can people find your book?
Oh, where can they find my book? Everywhere. After a very painstaking, crazy distribution issue, which probably isn't really an issue, but I, totally freaked myself out. I'm everywhere, actually.
Excellent.
Yeah, because I did wide, and then Amazon is Amazon, and then I put because I ended up putting my novel. It's a different version only because the back matter is different. It's the original that you can find like at Barnes and Noble or Apple or any of that. The original digital book has the first 2 chapters of book 2, and then the KU version actually has my novella in the back. So it's you can find it anywhere that you get books.
Nice.
I just found out that it was in like Overdrive and library places too. So it's
nice. I wonder if it's in the shops down here. I'll have a look.
That'll be
so
cool.
We have a place called the Nile, which is kind of like a not quite our bookshop.
That would be cool.
You are.
I am?
Yeah, you're on the Nile. So for Australian readers who don't use Amazon, the Nile, and if you're on the Nile, you should be on that. We have a really big shop down here called Booktopia.
No, it's fine. I just so I was curious. I asked Ingram Spark, like, oh, how long does it take for places to pick up? Because I wasn't seeing my ebook in Amazon. And I was getting stressed out, and they're like, oh, well, different places get metadata whenever they get it. I'm like, that is not going to help my stress level at all. But last night I was just like fucking around. Oh, sorry, your kids. I was farting around, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to type my title in, and somebody's selling it on eBay for $25. And I don't know
I found mine on eBay, and I'm like, what?
Yeah. Somebody's selling it for $18.99. Like, what? Yeah, I don't even understand, but because I'm not seeing that money.
Right. It's everywhere, right? Yeah, right.
It is. Thank you for having me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's been awesome. Yeah, you're on Booktopia as well. So Australian listeners, Booktopia, the Nile. You're in the big ones down here, down under.
Yay! That's exciting. I never thought about something like that. It is. And you were at Barnes and Noble up here, so that's cool too. But yeah, thank you so much for reaching out, and I'm gonna try to send more people your way too, because this is really fun. It was a great time.
Any author listening, come talk. Let's talk books. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Cara. Take care.
Thank you. Take care too.